Good evening, everyone. Welcome to another edition of the Gray Area here on the Black Man Unfiltered Network, also simulcasting on the Sparta HQ Network. I am Mr. Bennett, joined by my partner, as always,
This is Sparta!
the ghost of Sparta, aka Peter, aka Panayotis. Yasu, my brother, what is going on?
What is going on, my man? How are you tonight?
I am doing well. I am doing well. This is my favorite sports weekend of the year. This is NFL wild card weekend. And so you've had all these games on, including a game tomorrow night where my Steelers are certainly in the playoffs. And, so hopefully they can get a win there and, certainly close the show. But yeah, but very excited about it. A lot of close games. You got a game going on right now. It seemed like it's nip and tuck. All these games have come down to like the last possession of the game. So again, very entertaining if you're a fan of professional football. And in fact, certainly for those who follow, if you want to, certainly tune in Wednesday on the Black Man Unfiltered Network, our one-on-one sports show, Wednesday, 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. We'll be, certainly going to review the games and give our thoughts and commentary on it. So feel free to join us for that show every Wednesday on the Black Man Unfiltered Network. So, yeah, sort of kicking back a little bit. Just did some cooking tonight and,
This year's been a weird football season. Teams that you thought they're going to do really, really well did not do well at all.
Yeah, for sure. And again, it's like what they say, any given Sunday. So your ability to, you just got to show up for the games. I mean, I thought the Eagles would be a shoo-in to win tonight. And, they coughed it up, and now all the Jalen Hurts haters are out there saying stuff. So, but a lot of those guys are Lamar Jackson fans, and he didn't make it to the playoffs. So we're going to chop that up on Wednesday and certainly get some.
Last thing I'm going to say to that, and we're going to move on from that, is like the Jets were playing decent in the beginning of the season. Mm-hmm. It's just bad coaching from the coach. And a lot of Jets fans are outraged to the point they're asking for his resignation. I'm not surprised he hasn't quit yet.
It's interesting. I mean, they've been terrible for years, and so you want to get rid of the one guy after 1 year. I mean, we were expecting miracles out the gate, but the Jets, the Giants, a lot of teams in the local area aren't doing so well. So again, there's a lot of
the last time the Jets decent, not good, decent was when Rick Ryan was a coach.
Yeah, 2009. He went to back-to-back AFC Championship games, and had chances to win
one game.
Also, they definitely were in it. So, but in any event, certainly appreciate you guys coming certainly on the show tonight. Make sure when you come in, make sure you hit the like button, not only here, but consider going over to the Sparta HQ Network and hit the like button there. Certainly, we appreciate any support that you give us. And, certainly consider for the Black Man Unfiltered Network, consider dropping a super chat, certainly to the network. So you see scrolling at the bottom of the screen, certainly the Cash App, the Black Man Unfiltered. But again, you can certainly super chat to the channel. And certainly anything that you want to give to us personally, we appreciate any support you give us. Our personal super chats are scrolling at the bottom of the screen. So, good. There you go. So looking forward to this combo. I mean, this is kind of a sort of a continuation of several combos that we've had on the show. One of the areas of the show that we really talked about is really the circle of life when it comes to family. So we've talked about dating, we've talked about marriage, we've talked about children or having children. And in fact, the growing trend now where a lot of younger Gen Zers and later, they're opting out of having children altogether. And so, so we've had several shows on that. We've done shows on corporal punishment. And so some of what we may talk about tonight may certainly overlap a lot of those topics and subjects tonight. But we're talking about parenting styles tonight. Again, from a sort of global perspective, certainly looking at different ways people are raised around the world. If you come from an international background, I'd be very certainly like to hear what was it like in your, growing up. If you grew up in another country, what was it like over there in terms of parenting styles? Because I know here, especially in the African American community, sometimes there's oftentimes this mindset that, well, if it worked for me, it'll work for you kind of deal. You just kind of pass on things from one generation to the next. Whether or not it was good or not, that's certainly to be determined. But certainly there's a lot of in this area, a lot of times you simply do what was done to you. But certainly we've had shows, especially one on corporal punishment, was a pretty significant show. And again, there's a lot of pushback on that because even in that chat that night, we certainly got some feedback from people who still firmly believe in it, and then you have some people who stop doing it. And I was never one to do it. Like I've never used corporal punishment on my kids,
hmm
and
So
yeah,
when I originally thought about this topic, I thought about a couple of things. So, I think ahead because you
yeah,
have to with this stuff.
yeah,
So when this idea came in my head, I thought about when I was in a relationship with my ex, one of my exes who had 4 kids, and those 3 were younger, so I had to take every one individually.
mhm,
Fast forward now, I know this is not the same, but after losing Alex, I was thinking about this today actually. I raised Alex a certain way, said do all this stuff, right?
mhm,
He was very easy to train, same thing as you teaching kids.
mhm,
Well, Apollo, because he's a stubborn little shithead, I have to have a different style with him. He needs to be more creative versus Alex. So
mhm.
I was thinking back to this show to like, I know it's not the same thing, but it could be the same thing. Let's say, like example, if you have 3 kids like you do, Paul,
Mhm.
did you take every different kid and taught them or train or whatever term you want to use differently, or did
Mhm.
you did it exactly the same way?
I think it's about degree. First of all, before we get started, certainly I got Craig all the way from the UK. Shout out to you being in the chat this evening. Good to have you on board. We are doing fine, and certainly good to have you on board the show tonight. I think for us, because again, we definitely come from different backgrounds in terms of our upbringing and what we were exposed to. We were kind of committed to doing things a bit differently. Uh, I
Mhm.
think I think it's complex in that you're gonna have some borders, right? You gotta have some guardrails in terms of how things go. And that's across the board for everybody. Shout out to Mandrell and Bill tonight. Appreciate you being here. Um, so I think you have to have some things that apply to everybody. Um, but then there is the individual aspect of it. Now, again, I have 3 very different daughters. Just attitudes, mindset, different emotionally, like no one is the same. And sometimes that sort of oil and water type of mix is toxic sometimes. I mean, they really get into it. They know how to push each other's hot buttons when it comes to certain things.
But
And
that's siblings for you too.
yeah, yeah.
The question
But
I have for you, and I've been always asked you this, and I keep forgetting, what's the age gap between one versus the other?
my daughters are 22 months apart.
Okay, so they're very close to age.
Yeah, yeah, because we weren't young spring chickens when we were gonna have kids. But the one thing I didn't want like a 20-year-old and a 6-year-old. I was
Mhm.
like, we're gonna have these kids, and I'm gonna get snipped, and it's gonna be over. I mean, it was very deliberate in terms of how this was gonna
I'm
go down.
sorry, dude. Every time you say that, it cracks me up.
Yeah, I mean,
Like I'm taking my dog to get him fucking fixed in a funeral.
absolutely, absolutely. The only thing that would have changed that would have been if I had if she had needed like a like C-section or something, or the last delivery was kind of something, then you kind of go in there, you tie up the tubes and whatnot, and you're done. So that would have spared me from that. But no, we were pretty intentional. In fact, with us, we were so intentional that if we got the boy girl split, we might have stopped then. So the last girl, that was like the final attempt. We're gonna try this one more time to get this son. And if Paul Jr. doesn't come out, then we done anyway. So really, that's the different the very specific mindset that we had. We had a window that we wanted to have kids in. I didn't want to be raising kids in my 60s. And certainly for women, when you get older, once you get 30, 35 and up, things start happening. In fact, the last pregnancy was kind of scary for us. And fortunately, again, my daughter was okay. But it's like the older you get, when you're like 35 plus, um, you're a woman is at risk. So yeah, so we want to kind of get it done and be done with it. Want to acknowledge some of the folks in the chat. We got Braxton, the Steaks Fiend. or Snake Guys 24. You keep changing your name on me. But certainly in the chat tonight. Shout out to our guy Trey Taylor in the building tonight. I'm having more kids. Hey, salute to you, brother. I'm like I said, I'm done. I don't want I can't. It's weird. It's almost like a program at this point. You know what I mean? Like I can't stand kids really at this point. It's like before you have kids, it's like when you're in the store and you hear like a baby crying or whatever, and it's just like it's almost like chalk on a board, you know. But when you're a parent, it's almost like, hey, you're in parent mode. It's like a program. And I don't want to be around kids. Like, so if someone comes over with a baby, like someone wants to give me a baby like to hold in my hands or whatever. It's like, I don't want to touch that thing. Like I have no,
So
inkling or
you're saying
desire.
to me right now, if Spartan Jr. comes around and I bring him to your house, I go, oh, here, hold him for a second. You go like,
What is this? You know, I mean, I like I said, I have no desire for kids. I like my kids. I was there. I was doting. I was, all of that. Now, I do believe there is a parent program. I mean, a grandparent program. So I'm thinking to myself, okay, well, when my kids have their kids, and I become a grandfather. By the way, shout out to my kids. They got me this shirt for a Father's Day some time back. It's called Black Father. It's taken off the thing from Black Panther. So these are all my kids, including my dog, on the shirt. So they got me this. So this Black Father shirt. So they got it for Father's Day last year for me. But again, I'm sure there's a grandparent program, and I'll get the. I'm sure that'll all come up. But I don't need to be around kids at this point. I am done, and especially now we're almost empty nesters, and it's to the point now where all my kids need to go. You know what I'm saying? It's like, like I said, I got grown women, and that's a lot of estrogen in the house. That's a lot of emotions, and you realize at this point that they gotta leave the nest. They gotta sort of grow. I would love for them to stay home. And I told them, you guys can live here as long as you want to. I'm not kicking you out, but I'm just seeing just the way they're rolling. And I really see it with my daughter who's in medical school. Like that did a lot for her in terms of giving perspective. It's like, oh, this is what it's like to really not have the conveniences of a home, to kind of struggle a bit and whatnot. So she called me up. And she was like, "Wow, I really appreciate what you and mom did for us and whatnot. It's amazing, but I don't see how you guys did it." So again, she got like the light went on when she left the house and left for medical school, even more so than the ones who went to college. Because again, college was local, like Rutgers is down the street. So I'm less than an hour. Even if I'm going to Newark, it's less than an hour away. But when you like gone on your own, then I think that's when you really grow up. And so I'm recognizing now that may not be the long-term plan, like for them to be here. Like I think they need to just kind of get it's almost like the prodigal son. The prodigal son had to get out the house to realize how good he had it before he wised up and be like, oh, I'm better off in my dad's house or whatever than living it up out here. So I'm thinking, that might have to be the move for them if they really want to kind of grow up. I give them a hedge of protection here. But there's definitely some things that they all need to kind of mature in. And it's weird because even when my daughter was home for the couple of weeks she was here, you almost saw like a regression. It's like, oh, I'm home, I don't have to do anything. When she's away at school, it's like she cleans, she does all the stuff, she's tidy and everything. But when she's home, it's like, I'm like, it's like, yeah, it's time for you to go back. I was like, because I just saw like a lot of those old habits start to creep back in when you're in a protected place. So
that's your comfort zone. So you're gonna act completely different than when you're not in she has her own dorm. That's her place. So now she's responsible for herself. She doesn't have the cushion of you or your wife saying, "Oh, mom got the laundry. Mom's gonna cook, or dad's gonna cook, or whatever. However you run your household."
Yeah.
So the cushion is not there. So you gotta grow up really, really fast.
Yeah, for sure. So, and I think we all need, and now, like I said, the background that my wife and I had was such where we kind of had to grow up a little faster. Now, my wife, she stayed home until marriage. So again, shout out to Trey's last comment. Yeah, my wife, I picked her up from her mama's house, basically. and she moved straight from mama's house into my house. So that was certainly the move there. Like I said, I would like it. Like I said, I've told them that if they wanted to stay, that they could do that. But I think they got some growing up to do. They just don't know how good they have it, and sometimes getting away from that is something that I think is good for them. So leave the nest for a minute, and if you find it struggling, then yeah, I'll always leave the light on for you. You can come on back if you want to, but I think
See,
there's some
I see
serious
parents
going
doing
on.
the opposite. Once you're out the house, you're out. You're not coming back. You're done.
Mhm,
Like once you decide to leave, you're on your own. You got to figure your shit out. And
mhm,
like if you need a little help with financially, they're going to support you with that. Give you some money if you need it. But except that, you're done. You're out. You're not coming
mhm,
back.
mhm. Yeah. So I was gonna say, guy had a 5-year-old and the 68. His wife is 36. I'm living the life. Hey, look, I ain't mad at people for doing it. I'm just saying I'm done. Like when I knew I was gonna have that, like I said, I could be very directive and very focused. And when I was done, I was done, like done. It's clipped, snip done. And I just wanted like I said, I have no desire to have kids. I don't even like being around. It's really interesting. Even with my kids, I always said that
Mhm.
my value as a parent would come later. Like when they were like young, like 4, 5, and 6. I mean, I played with them and whatnot, but I wasn't into like, they want to do tea parties. They want to play with their dolls. They want to play just that.
I
I
can
mean,
see you
I'm more
playing
of like a
dolls.
rough house. Like I'm wrestling with them. I'm body slamming them. I'm suplexing them and, pinning them for the 1, 2, 3 and all that. I'm doing that kind of physical stuff with them, but I don't want it to have tea sets and I don't want to, their girly parties or their sleepovers and stuff. I was like, I'd rather be somewhere else. You know what I mean? But I always thought my value as a parent would come later when they became teenagers and when they started, looking at the world differently and started having certain feelings. And then boys came into the picture. I was like, okay, that I thought I would be more of a use. And it's for the most part, it's proven to be true. Like I have more, I think I'm kind of closer to them now as adult women than I ever was, certainly when they were children. Because again, I think the conversations are more transparent and to an extent, I can be more myself when I'm with them. Like, I don't have to be like when they're younger, you got to be dad, right? There's like an image like you got to be like Black Panther, right? You got to be the superhero. You know what I mean? You got to be T'Challa. You know what I mean? Um, but when you're an adult, when they become adults, it's like when they become adults, I can just be myself. You know what I mean? So I can share, like I've
My father
shared,
was similar actually because
yeah.
my father didn't really have a father figure growing up. He got started working at a very young age at 12.
Mhm.
His father died, like I mentioned before on the show, towards the end of World War II.
Yeah.
It was like leftover mines. When the war's over, he got blown up. So when he when he had to be a kid, he couldn't be a kid. He had to be adult, go
Mhm.
work, support his mom and his sister.
Right.
So when I came around, he did not know how to be a dad. Like we mentioned multiple times on this show and other shows we've done, there's a difference between being a father and a dad. It's two different things, and I think we both agreed on that. So when I became older, he started hanging out with me more and
Mhm.
talking.
Mhm.
Definitely when I learned Greek, he was more, okay, I can start, talking to my son, but
Mhm.
we didn't really hang out as much.
Mhm.
We didn't start hanging out to 21 because I was able to drink with him. Like he wasn't a big heavy drinker, but when he could have a beer, he could go to a bar and hey, come with me too. I'm like, cool, I have a beer. I'm like, so never had that father son bonding. Like I with my even to this day we still argue.
Mhm.
Like even the other day, I told him, "Listen, I'm done this bullshit. You stay in a nursing home in New York. I'm bringing you up here and putting you in a different nursing home because I
Mhm.
can't put him in the same house and I can't afford two rents."
Mhm.
And he threw her biggest fit in the world. Like, you're not gonna tell me what to do at 76. I'm like, dude, I pay your bills. I kind of do actually. I can do
Mhm.
whatever I want.
Hey.
So my point is trying to get through that is not everybody has the background to become a father.
Mhm.
Anybody can be a dad, but not everybody can be a father.
Mhm. No, 100%. I mean, and like I said, I don't know if I had it because my father didn't come
You're
back
back.
into my life until about 14.
Yeah.
Is when I started. So I lived with my mom until about 14, and then I lived with my dad from 14 onwards. So, and even him, I mean, there were certain things that I picked up from him, but really, when you start thinking about, okay, do you really want to be a parent? And again, this is something I'm also big on. Um, I wasn't gonna have parents. I wasn't gonna have kids for marriage, and I wanted like 2 to 3 years of marriage first. That was in the script. Okay, that was in the document. Like we gonna get married. Like I said, from the time I met my wife to the time we got married was 10 months, and I knew I was gonna marry her probably after like 2 or 3 months. So I wanted a substantial amount of living as married couple time before I was ever thinking about, do I want to have kids? Because if the marriage wasn't going to go well, or if I didn't think I would feel comfortable enough in having kids with her, then I wasn't going to have kids with her, and we might have got divorced or, whatever, but I did not want to go through that period of time. So I tell guys all the time, it's like, look, take your time with it. There's a huge difference between getting married and having children and having a family, and don't put the cart before the horse. Unless now again, if that's your intention, you just want kids and you don't care about marriage or whatnot. I mean, again, if you got the money and the means to do that, and some people do opt out for that. We got like Nick Cannon and you got Cam Newton and these athletes. If you got bread like that, where you can have 8 to 10 kids by different baby mothers, and you just raise these kids, you think that's a better way to do it. If that's you're concerned about your legacy like that, that's a stratosphere that I'm not in. So so I can't relate to that, but I would say for the Gen Pop, I would say, yeah. I mean, if she can't be your wife, she shouldn't be the mom of your kids. That's just a personal view that I have. Um, but in any event, yeah, the idea that um, you know, uh, we wanted something different than what we were exposed to, and that was just again a very deliberate thing, and I needed time to sort of work that out. So I certainly I agree with you. Not everyone's built for this, and those are questions
Mhm.
I think as a man I think you have to ask. Do you want to be a father? And if you do, why? I mean, what's part of it? Is it just about legacy? Is it just about your name going on? How active you want to be in the rearing of your children? Do you want basically the mom to have the majority of the responsibility? You the classic breadwinner, or do you want to be active? Do you want to be, taking the kids to school and going to PTA meetings and stuff? So all those things I think are conversations that I think certainly the couple needs to have, and certainly, but as a man, I think you need to really have. Um, but I think, like I said, a lot of people, when going into relationships or whatever, they're not thinking about those kind of conversations. Um, and they're not good with themselves, but they see, the woman, they see the sex, they see the whatever, and then things can kind of go south from there. So I certainly agree with that there, but I when I was thinking about this topic, so did you finish like as far as you because I know
Yeah,
you
yeah,
said you
yeah.
had
Go
some
ahead.
thoughts about that. There are a couple things. So when first saw the topic, I was thinking more from a global, like there's one thing certainly, with wife and I, we've encountered a lot of people over the years, and a
Mhm.
lot of different households, a lot of different cultures in terms of they um how they raise their kids, and we've encountered some strange ones. Well, at least for us, from an American perspective, there's different ways that people, even in the states, raise their kids. I remember when Dottie was pregnant with her with our first. We had a good friend of ours. I mean, he's real good friends. They were like um, salt to the earth type of people, and they were kind of earthy. I'll say that they were almost like hippies, like like back of the day. And the wife, she dressed very conservatively and whatnot, and but she belonged to this group called the La Leche League, and La Leche, like milk, like leche, the Spanish
Okay.
for milk, right? So she invited us to, I guess they had like a seminar or something like that. It was in our town, and they had a seminar at a hotel, like an all day kind of thing. And they have a different philosophy altogether when it comes to raising children. That's extremely traditional. The first thing is they're real big on homeschooling, like, no public school education. They're real big on that, and certainly in New Jersey, certainly, there's means. I don't know how it is in every state, when it comes to that, but Jersey, you can raise your kids up at least to a certain age, and then if you want them to finish high school or whatever, they can go in for high school or something. But they're real big on homeschooling. They're real big on nursing relatively late. Like, um, we were there and you had this kid, he might have been like 5. He came up to his mom and tapped her on the shoulder, and she lifted up her top, and my man was nursing like right there. It was like 5. I was like,
Oh shit! I never heard of that.
it's
And
yeah.
I know a lot of Spanish people.
What's that?
I know a lot of Spanish people. I never heard of that in my life.
Yeah, I'm saying, I'm like 5. I mean, these kids, it's like these aren't babies. These aren't, you kind of like here. You wait to keep maybe till 2, right? I mean, and that's if
Mhm.
you're into like nursing. That's the thing. Don't talk to them about formula. They're like breastfeeding, and they're very big on parental rights. You should be able in a restaurant, if you got your kid there, whatever. If you want to lift up your top and put the baby under there and nurse the kid or whatever, put a blanket over the top. They're real big on that. And no formula, no soy, none of that, no feeding from the bottle. Because again, one, if they think it's healthier, which I'm not going to deny that. But then it's also there's like that bonding that apparently that you have from that sort of experience. But again, they do it into late. Like here, I think most people stop breastfeeding around, like I said, 2, maybe 2.5, 3 max. But I mean, the kid is potty trained and walking around, and if he wants a taste of the milk, mom, I need a taste. It was the strangest thing I ever saw. Dad, I almost left after seeing that. But they're real big on breastfeeding into certainly at a later age than that of a traditional American household. And again, now I don't know how it is around the world. I don't know how it is in Greece. Maybe you can share. So in a Greek, either in native Greece or Greek American homes, are they big on breastfeeding? And if they are, how late are they doing it?
So, all right, if a mother can breastfeed, yes, you will. Soon as you can get off that, the better. Because eventually, I know the little monk, loves sucking on those little titties, but he needs to move on from that.
Mm.
But not to 5. Like I said to you before a minute ago, like I know a lot of Latino people, a lot of Latino couples. This is the first time I ever heard somebody being breastfeed up to 5.
Yeah, well, like I said, it's a strange group. I mean, they almost look like when we were there, it was almost like I'm like at an Amish place or whatever. I mean,
Mhm.
it was kind of like throwback. I mean, the women, no makeup, again, conservative dresses, with the exception of, easy access to the breast to feed their kids. Uh, you know, um, so it was different. But like I said, they're real big on that. The other thing that they're really big on, and when I was just looking up the topics tonight. Now, apparently, this is also big in Asia, especially in Japan. They're real big on family beds. Like everybody sleeps in the same bed. I know if you remember that show Blossom,
Mhm.
or if you like Big Bang Theory, Miam, I forget her name, I forget how to pronounce her last name, but the woman there, she's into that. Like she's big on that kind of child rearing. having all the kids in bed with you and whatnot and sleeping together, the family bed, again, for this idea of bonding and closeness and things of that nature. Again, very different because I remember when we were having kids, first thing we had was, yeah, was the nursery. Like, it wasn't even a thought in our minds that our kids would intentionally sleep in bed with us on a regular basis as a normal thing. But I'm sure that, again, there's cultures around the world where that happens, especially in old school, or if you don't have the luxury of having a separate nursery or bedroom for the kids. And yeah, I guess everybody's going to sleep together. I mean, back in the day, people lived in small houses and had big families. So yeah, I could kind of see from an economic perspective, if you are, you don't have the means, yeah, you're gonna have a bunch of kids. You got 10 kids in a two-room house, then yeah, I mean, people
That's
gonna
a little
be,
different, of course, if you don't have the room, I get that, you know what I'm
yeah.
saying?
But like
But
I
when
said, but
you
this was an intentional. This is an intentional practice. I don't care how big your house is. It's like get a bed big enough where everybody can kind of sleep in the same bed. And it was, like I said, it was just an odd, we were just, because she was a really good friend of ours, her and her husband passed in a motorcycle accident a few years ago. Rest in peace to him. A really good guy. But again, they were different. They were like throwbacks to like the 60s and whatnot. And they just had a different way of doing it. So they were like, hey, check it out. It was just we didn't have to pay anything. It wasn't like it was they were trying to get our money or anything like that. But they were just trying to introduce people to an alternate lifestyle of parenting and child raising that again, after my wife and we left, and we didn't rock with any of that. I mean, my wife, she breastfed up until she couldn't anymore. But that whole vibe was like we just felt we were in a very different place. Like I said, we were like back in Amish country or something, or some throwback to some movement or something like that. So that's why I was talking about. So I want to kind of follow with you. What's the strangest sort of parenting, or from a culture, because I know you talk about the Latin culture or whatever, is there anything from those cultures that you've seen that is very different, certainly from a Greek experience, or if you want to share from Greek culture, how Greeks differ from your typical American, not even Greek Americans, in terms of how you raise your kids? Is do you see a big difference in just the rearing aspect of children from Greece and the United States? And like I said, even in the United States with that group, they had a different way of doing things that I don't know if, unless you go to like, Eastern Europe or something like that, or like I said, some far off places in Asia or something like that, where you would see that in mass. But apparently they are you know, they're a growing. You can look them up right now. They got their website, and they're prevalent still.
depends where you're raised. Usually the father becomes more like your best friend, teaches you the basics, how to change a tire, how to change a toilet, yada yada yada. And the mother is more the caregiver, and like she'll cook, clean, all that stuff. And I mentioned before, the rate of divorce is very low in Greece versus here. To me, when I saw a lot of single parents, that was very strange for me. The way they were raising two different houses, two different families.
Mhm,
So then you not only there are two different houses and two different families, they're also raised two different styles now because they're not under the same roof.
mhm,
Right? Let's say I'll use you and your wife for example. Like you guys always were together, so if you were going to discipline your child, you guys kind of like work as a team. When you're not together, it's not a team effort.
mhm,
And when he's I know a lot of people was just when he's under my roof, he goes by my rules. When he's under his mother's rule, or her,
mhm.
or whatever,
Right.
and that can cause some issues there as you're raising. Um, to me, that was the most strangest thing ever because again, I wasn't used to that when I was younger.
Mhm,
Now it's like whatever.
mhm,
So that would probably be the most strangest thing I saw. to be honest with you. Not anything like breastfeeding or anything like that.
Mhm.
The
But what
only
about like family beds? Like, it's maybe not so much here, but maybe in Greece. Like, is it common for the kids to sleep in the same bed as their parents or something like that, or they sleep in the
only
beds?
time they have a sleep in the same bed is they have to have a nightmare or something like that.
Mhm.
I saw a couple times like brother and sister sharing beds, but now I look back, it's kind of like okay, now it's weird. But when you're
Yeah,
younger, you don't think of it.
right.
But it was like because they only had one room. You know what I'm saying? They had to put the bed together because they had no choice.
Mhm.
So that was the strange part for me back then.
Mhm.
Not back then. Now would be strange for me because I'm like, okay, they're two different people that should have their own beds, kind of thing.
Mhm.
But I do understand of room restrictions. You need to do that sometimes.
Mhm.
So that was the weirdest thing for me, like seeing different methods. That was different for me too.
Mhm.
The way they spoke to each other, versus except yelling. That's what I got used to yelling. Or something happening because of how loud we are. You know how loud I am. So I never thought about that. What's weird,
Mhm.
what's not weird, because it was like to me it was the norm.
Mhm.
Everybody has their own norm.
Mhm.
So yeah, that was thing, but not to the point like you said the Latino family were like breastfeeding like at
Yeah.
5 years old,
I'm
5.
looking them up right now. Like, yeah, so the first that organization started in 1956. So it's a 7-year
Mhm.
old organization. And they say they basically say they can go up to age 7 with the breastfeeding. I mean, it's they say, and really they say it's no, there's really no age. It's like they encourage. It says the philosophy is to encourage breastfeeding for as long as the mother and child desire it. And that can go all up, from ages 3 to 7 is common. It's like it's a thing. Like I said, here it's like you might, I can see, a lot of women breastfeeding, like I said, that first year, 18 months. And then after that, you put them on formula. And then, then you put them on, baby food and so on and so forth. It's almost like a natural progression. Um, but but yeah, that's a new one. But so okay, so in Greek culture, and like I said, I'm really focusing on Greek, like being in the country of Greece. You don't have you don't see a lot of bed sharing
No.
in Greece. What about the idea of like the community, like raising the children? Like you see
Oh yeah,
this in a lot of
that's big
you
in
see
Greece.
this like in a lot of African cultures and whatnot. They say it's like it's a village system. It's not like the idea in America or in Western countries is just like mother, father, children in the household. But in a lot of African countries, for example, the village plays a big role in the rearing of children. It's not just the parents' responsibility; it's like the village's responsibility to raise the children. To give them that
It's a little
sense of
different in Greece. So the
okay.
responsibility still falls on the parents, no matter
Yeah.
what.
And I'm not
But
saying it doesn't fall on the Africans, but I'm just
no,
saying
no,
like
no, I'm not saying that.
yeah.
But with the Greek community, if a elderly or somebody older tells you something, don't do this, don't do that, you're still required to listen to them no matter what.
Mhm.
Does that make sense?
Yeah. Now, what about if, and again, I believe we've talked about this in the past. Corporal punishment is
That's huge in
is
Greece.
it's used, right?
Hmm.
So, what about the village? So, could you whip a child, for example, that wasn't yours? If you found the kid doing bad or whatever, could you do that? And was that culturally accepted, or was it more so you tell the family that, or the parents that, hey, your kid was doing this, then let them deal with it? Or did people have the free reign to discipline if the parents weren't around, or they were caught in the act of doing something and they found them, that they had a chance to go and grab them by the ear and do like what a parent would do? I mean, is that accepted?
Technically, no, but they still do it,
Mhm.
if that makes sense.
Mhm.
So technically, no, you're not supposed to be doing that, but they still do it
Mhm.
because that's the norm. That's how they were raised.
Mhm.
But they don't
I
like
could definitely see your mom doing that. If there was a kid in the neighborhood and he was acting up or whatever, I could see your mom grabbing that kid.
Yeah, ear, something like that. Nothing crazy,
Mm,
but they wouldn't get to the point that they're taking the belt and or a switch and beating them.
mm,
The teachers would do that for a heartbeat back in the
mm,
day. Now, forget it. You're going right into prison for that shit.
yeah.
So back in the day, yeah, it was kind of normal to be honest with you. So I don't know how you really give you a straight answer because it was is different mindset now than it is then,
Mhm.
and it was different mindset before me too.
Oh, sure.
So
Absolutely.
it evolves over
No,
time.
no doubt, no doubt. And there's certainly a different mindset here when it comes to um, uh, free time or roaming time for kids. Now, again, we all know. I mean, I'm Gen X, so I remember growing up. Guys my age, we remember when we started seeing the ads on TV. It's 5 p.m. Do you know
I
where
remember
Johnny
those
is?
actually. Yeah.
Or the milk cartons, and you started seeing missing children on the milk cartons. And I think we might have talked about this on an earlier show. Um, that there's a mindset that everybody basically wants your kid, right? Like
Hmm.
you don't let your kids free roam. Like when's the last time you saw kids, like 4, 5, 6 kids, on their bikes, riding their bikes in town unassisted without a parent?
Shit, I was a kid still.
Yeah, I mean, it's that is certainly I mean, I've seen it rarely, but again, it is rare, when I've seen that, sort of thing. But I think the culture has been shaped here where you don't have that free roam. Now, I was looking up some stats, like I know in Australia, they're real big, and in India also, they're real big on kids having free roam time. Like even today, like, like they're not checking your every move, or you're supposed to be able to kind of go out and explore the world. As long as it's kind of like what it was back in the day. It's like, okay, look, you be home before sundown or you be home by a certain time, whatever, but no one was checking your movements 24/7. But I find it interesting now that everybody has devices that can track your kids 24/7, and you still won't let them out of your sight because of some fear that your kids are going to get abducted by
I know
somebody.
parents that are the kids are 18 that still do that.
Yeah.
They're trapping.
So yeah. So I mean, I think that has certainly done some damage to I think young person's development. And again, we complain oftentimes about the kids that we raised, but I'm thinking if you're so paranoid about what's going to happen to my kid, and I remember this when my kids were in grammar school. Like, I remember we used to drive our kids to the school. You pull inside the lot where the kids get dropped off. So just in your mind, think. So you go into the lot. The entrance to the school is to the right.
Hmm.
It's about 50 feet, 50, 60 feet to get into the school. And you have a guard who's there who greets the kids kind of on the way in. Older guy high fives the kids as they're walking in. And I remember even back then that parents wouldn't let their kids out of their sight until they went into the building is when they would pull out. And I'm just thinking, like, growing up, I mean, you would just walk. I mean, we walked miles, 2, 3 miles to get to school. We typically on the way, we would greet kids on the way to on the way to school. We go through a neighborhood, God be waiting for us. So we go from 2 to 4 to 6 to 8, and there'd be a bunch of us walking to school because we took the same kind of common route to get to school every day. And I'm thinking, like, nobody does that today. So at least not in this country anyway. I can't speak for because I hear, like I said, it's real big on Australia. They're real big on, fostering a sense of independence in kids pretty early. But that kind of freedom is just something that has been sort of taken away. And I'm just wondering, like, is that, how has that done damage to kids? And like I said, into their development when you don't give them the reign to, you know, hey, you should be, go to the store and get some, get something from the quick check or the 7-Eleven or whatever and come back. That you don't trust your kid to do that. Or say, hey, let me give you a car ride over. I mean, are we doing something to our kids when we do that? I mean, what are your thoughts on that?
I think we are damaging them because you're not letting them to experience life, to go out there and just enjoy making mistakes. I remember my neighbors used to say all the time back to my grandma, "Let him go out and have fun." What's the worst case scenario? He kick a soccer ball and breaks a window. That's the worst case scenario because everybody keep an eye on each other. And they don't do that anymore, and that is one of the major problems I think we're having now these days. Kids are not being kids anymore. Now they're locked up behind a screen, and that's it.
Mm,
And that's not good either. Now the worst thing. Now before it was okay. What is my kid don't get into kind of trouble to get into? Okay, you guys in trouble, whatever, right?
mm,
Now I see more kids getting in trouble, but getting into more illegal trouble. And
mm.
that's not good either.
Yeah.
And the top of that, the worst one is sometimes they're going on these dating sites and they're meeting people 4 to 5 times older than them. Like they might be 15. She's meeting a 50 or 30 or 60 years old, whatever the age is.
Mhm.
That's the other problem you're having now. And then you remember those old show Catching the Parrot? Says, oh, they had a show like the parents was into the skit and everything. They were
Yeah.
it called the parent and they were saying like, we told you never get in somebody's car, and they did it anyway.
Right.
Same concept here.
Yeah. Yeah.
If you let them live and explore world, they will know, yeah, I shouldn't get in that car because I don't know the person.
Right. Right. I know another difference, at least like I said, in America. And again, it's not all American households, but
Mhm.
certainly something that I've seen in other cultures is their approach to alcohol in that culture. I know some they actually give their kids alcohol relatively early. Like they expose them to it pretty early.
Yeah,
So it's like
like my
just so they
culture.
don't. Okay.
Yeah, remember I was drinking at a very young age because there was no age limit. Like I
Now, when
remember
you said drinking, what were you drinking? Like what they give you?
mostly beer and wine.
Beer and wine. Okay.
Yeah. So the youngest one I had age, and you're gonna kick out of this. It sounds like me actually too. More of my dad's friend used to drink beer and leave the bottles next to him, and he just cleaned up his
Hmm.
mess as he left.
Hmm.
I was a little it was with a little son of a bitch. I crawled over there slowly, and it was only like a drop in the bottle. I
Hmm.
drink those drops.
Hmm.
So I was still in diapers and I was already drunk in diaper form.
Oh, jeez.
Yeah, but my mom was like, called my dad. My dad called my mom, like, you look at your son's drunk. Like, my mom comes out, like, what the fuck are you talking about, dude? And it's just like, what the fuck happened to my son? And we all laugh about it now. She wasn't mad. It was like innocent thing. How do they expect I would crawl over there and take
Hmm.
the drop out of that beer? You know what I'm saying? At
Hmm.
my age, back then that was a lot.
Hmm.
So by that said, it was just drinking was very common in Greece for any age. Like I remember going to a bodega, for example, the Greek version of it, and they're selling beers, and I used to carry it home. You know,
Hmm.
at Easter time, like having a little beer with your food was okay. Nobody said anything to me.
Hmm.
That's why when people were here or when I moved to here, people were trying to get alcohol.
Yeah.
Okay, I didn't care about it. I just call, hey ma, can I get can you bring me a 6-pack? Sure. I didn't know anything about beer back then. Other than all the beers the same shit. But she usually always picked up the same thing when my dad drank. Budweiser or Heineken.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that's cool.
Yeah.
And
And
that's
you
all the
got to wonder because I mean, it's like you don't raise your kids. Now, again, I'm a lifetime teetotaler, and the only thing
thing.
I'm kind of really anal about, like, I don't like alcohol in the house, or smoking or drink, like anything in the house. Like I say, I can't control what my daughters do. They go out there, they're grown, they do what they want. But my thing is just don't bring it to the house. But I'm just wondering, for a lot of parents who I have seen those who raised very strict, right? Like
Mhm.
no freedoms or whatever, and then they get to college and they go buck wild. You know what I mean? It's like, hey, this is like a new toy. It's like, hey, I get to do this. Hey, and mom and dad's not here, and they just lose it like altogether. So you wonder then, is it wiser to expose your kids to certain things earlier in life? So again, it's not like a shock and awe when you get and do you expose them to things and teach them proper way to do things, or do you, I think a lot of parents, especially here, you do so much to keep your kids away from things, and you wonder, is that the proper way to do it? Now, I would say my wife and I, we certainly kept our kids pretty busy, and we kept them active. Again, when they turned 16 years old, they had to get jobs. That was like a requirement. It's like, look, we're going to give you the ability. If you want to buy Skechers, we'll buy you Skechers. And my daughters loathe Skechers. So it's like, if you want Nikes, you want Adidas, you want the latest shoe trends, you're going to have to buy those on your own. And so
That's
that
fair.
was something we implemented pretty early on. So they didn't really have a lot of time to get into trouble or to get into certain things. But for the most part, like I said, we don't drink. When we have social gatherings, we don't bring wine or any kind of alcohol into the house. But it's interesting because even then, it's not like as soon as they turned 21, the first thing they did was get a drink. So it wasn't like, so would they have been better off, or kids in general better off if you expose them to alcohol early in life? So
I
it's not like a big deal when they grow older with it.
I personally think it is a better experience for the kid who experienced alcohol in a very young age, because you know what you're drinking. It's not like, oh, it's something I slipped in my drink, and I feel funny. You know how you're
Mhm,
reacting when you're drunk and
mhm,
all this stuff.
mhm.
So that's my personal opinion. I know me and you have a different opinion on that
Yeah,
because
for
obviously
sure.
we have different backgrounds.
Right,
So I think younger, you're gonna expose them to alcohol or to anything like that. Yeah, you
right,
should.
right.
I know parents who are potheads and they let their kids smoke,
Mhm,
so they know what we looks like, smells like, and how it's supposed to react to you
mhm.
before this splice or something. Then they're freaking stoned out their asses. You don't know why, and then we feel weird. You know what I'm saying?
Right. But I mean, but you're gonna give them alcohol or pot until they get stoned, or is it just, like what's the framework? It's like, even when you were a kid drinking, would it be like a sip of beer or a whole can of beer? I mean, what are you giving these kids, or what do you think they need to be exposed to?
Ooh, that's a rough one. Depends on
Because
the
you
age.
talk about kids getting stoned. I mean, I even then I would think that's a bit extreme. Like, I don't
I
think
agree with you. I don't. I agree 100%. I said I know parents who do that.
yeah, that's
I wouldn't do that
that's a bit much.
personally.
I could say, look, if you want to take a puff or a whiff just to kind of see what it's like or whatever, I was like, okay, I get that. But to allow your kid to get drunk or stoned in your presence, that to me is, even if you're saying,
Extreme.
okay, well now you know what it feels like, so you never catch yourself there. That's that's a little much, certain for me. But
Mhm.
like I said, I can certainly understand, not having stigma when it comes to certain things, or not being so intimidated, or when you're seeing something for the first time and you have no control, or at least you don't know like the proper way how you conduct yourself in certain environments when it's around. Certainly I can appreciate that. And, I can appreciate that kind of exposure. But one thing I wanted to show, shout out to our guy King Smith, the actual King Smith. Certainly you can follow him on the King and Me show. They got typically Monday nights, 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Look them up, the King and Me, the show on relationships. And, certainly you can follow them. I watch them pretty much every Monday night, or listen to them because I'm walking the dog usually while those guys are on. But good interaction with those two, and a good couple. So, certainly they're worth checking out. Follow his channel. And also, he's got a Facebook morning show that he does as well. Look him up, the actual King Smith, and, follow him in the mornings also as he does his thing.
Surprisingly,
But
he knows what he's talking about once in a while.
I'm not getting into that, but
I will.
yeah, but he's a good dude. But one thing I did want to share, because I found a couple of statistics on this. I talked about just the idea of how, at least with American households, and again, I don't know if Craig is in the UK. I don't know if it's a common thing there, but the idea of everyone's, again, kidnapping your kids, and like what the real statistics on child kidnapping is, for the most part, is pretty low. But why it's so festered in our minds that these things are happening at these obscene numbers, and that it's a 50-50 chance that your kid can get abducted somewhere. I don't know how valid that thinking or that scenario is. But I want to share my screen. I just wanted to go over again. I got this from a couple different sites who got some statistics, and I just wanted to share this, bring this up. So again, the risk of being kidnapped by a stranger. So again, this media report that 460,000 children go missing every year, but we're not talking about the children of who are kidnapped and given new names and enrolled in a new elementary school. Um, that to qualify as a missing kid in this country, you got to be under 18 years of age and have to be missing for more than an hour. All right, so that's typically the criteria what they use in terms of identifying missing children. But the reality is, as far as the breakdown of who gets abducted, most of those are coming from the other parent. So, like, let's say if you're like a split parent, you divorce or whatever, it's the other parent that's coming in to really take on the kids. It's not some stranger just coming up and getting your kid. That statistic in and of itself, according to here, it's only 105. When we talk about stereotypical kidnappings, like someone's just going to come in a black car and pick up your kid off the street and take your kid somewhere. It's a relatively no number of kids, and then the average age of that person is also a bit older, anywhere between 12 and 17 years old. So if you look at again, just statistically, 72 million kids in the U.S. is 0 to 17, and the number of kidnapping by strangers is about 100. So the odds of being kidnapped is about 1 in 720,000, or close to 1 in a million. You're 5 times more likely to have co-joined twins. To give a little perspective, if for some strange reason you wanted your child to be kidnapped by a stranger, how long would you have to keep them outside unattended for this to likely happen? It's like 750,000 years. So it's just the idea. It's like we've been fed this idea that, okay, well, Johnny's been taken or something like that. It doesn't happen that often. But then we want to keep our kids so close. We don't want them out of our sight, and we don't give them sort of like the freedom to really to explore and to see what the world is. And now again, if you're living in a violent neighborhood where there's like shootings and rapes and things like that, yeah, you might want to be a bit more careful there. But I'm talking about in suburbia. I'm talking about people got Audis in their yards. And what I also saw that was different was like they don't even use like parks. You know what I mean? Like there was a boom in the 90s where everybody was essentially building a mini amusement park in their own backyards. You live in the suburbs, you got a nice house, you got a decent backyard, you were putting a pool, an in-ground pool in, you were getting this big jungle gym set in your house, and everybody had one.
I remember those towards the end of my childhood. I remember everybody had one of those for a
Yeah,
while.
it's like so you don't even want your kid. What happened to taking your kid to the local park where you can get a lot of that stuff for free? So again, this idea that people have become so you want to make your home this little oasis or whatever, or you want to have control over the coming and goings of your kids. Like, I don't know if that's necessarily the best way to are we cheating our kids long term when we put so many restrictions on them that they can't explore and get into things? I mean, obviously, sure, but they want, obviously, you don't want your kid to be abducted, you don't want the drugs, you don't want a lot of things that are out there. But again, it doesn't happen at the numbers that we say they are. But everyone's spooked about that. Like I said, the parents who wouldn't let their kid out of their sight going into a school, the door's 50 feet away from the car. That's always been a big concern of mine. It's like, what are we doing? In our
I think
desire to
with these
protect,
news
are we hurting long
outlets,
term?
the news outlets and everything this been built in our heads that this may happen. From movies to dramas to news and everything. Yeah, you hear it once in a blue moon, but not as often. How often do you get a Amber Alert on your phone?
Maybe once a year. I mean, it's like it's not. It's certainly not a regular occurrence. Um, I could probably remember in the times I've had, a smartphone, maybe 5 times. I mean, it's not a big, and usually, I mean, they're giving deets this way. It's like, white Toyota Camry traveling on certain road or something like that. I mean, it's not like these things it's not like these things are so common that my phone is lighting up every week with these Amber Alerts. It doesn't happen, and I'm in New Jersey. I'm one of the most densely populated areas of the country, and we don't get a ton of alerts like that. So yeah, I mean, King
For
Spencer
a
saying the
small
same
period of
thing.
time, when I was, working for the hospital, I would get them pretty often, actually. Not like every single day. Every few months, I get one or two. You know what I'm saying? But they usually cut the guy immediately. It usually was. I don't get too much into it because of the HIPAA laws, but it was more about, oh, he was ex girlfriend or
Yeah,
excuse me, ex
again, yeah, it's
boyfriend.
someone close. It's not a
Exactly.
stranger, right? It's usually the parents of the kids, and they're in some custody thing or whatever, and the kids simply become collateral because they couldn't
Correct.
figure some things out. In fact, and I had another stat here talking about. I think it was like 78% of abductors are the non-custodial parent when that happens. So again, when these reports go in and talk about, oh, my child's been kidnapped, it's the co-parent, the one who doesn't have custody, that's doing the quote unquote abduction. So again, this narrative that even in the most suburban places in the country, it isn't happening to the degree that it is. So I just think that that perception is really limiting. Now, um, want to switch up on, now again, we've talked about this in the past, and I don't know if you've since then reflected on it. When you become a parent, are you going to use corporal punishment?
It depends on what they do. That comes down to it.
I
I
didn't
don't.
ask you that. I mean, so it's conditioned, but so that's a yes then, or not.
Most likely, yes.
Okay.
If that answers your question.
Yeah, I mean, it's I'm not saying you're going to be back in the day, like people were known for having a rack with different sizes of belts on it, and they'd be like, you
Damn,
do
I never
this,
really
you
spent
get
that
this
much.
belt, you get this one, you get that one. You know what I mean? I mean, it was
Everybody had
always
their own
like
name on it.
things have a name on it, but it was just it was just belts of different lengths or whatever. And but now, like I said, that was something I was going to be pretty intentional about that. Now again, I don't have sons, so would I think differently if I had a son? I would do everything in my power not to implement it. And
Mhm.
King, I'd be curious with you. What are your thoughts on corporal punishment? Whether it be, certainly, I know you have a daughter, but if you had a son, or would it be a difference for you between a daughter and a son in corporal punishment? What is your view on using that? And I know you come from a Southern background. You kind of old school like me, at least growing up anyway. So I'd be curious on what you guys think about it. Craig in the UK, um, certainly, what's your view? Because I know you have kids too. So what's your view on it? So again, um, so again, King is also I'm for it. Did it once. All right. Gender wouldn't matter. So okay. All right. So you had to, but again, I wouldn't even call a one time use. I don't know if I call that a big use in corporal punishment. Again, maybe that's all she needed, and she never acted up again, and you never had to go there again. You hope that's the case also. That's like the in case of emergency break glass sort of thing, and you had to whip it out one time, and that was one and done. So maybe that was the case when you did that. But yeah, generally, I'm to this day, I'm just not a huge believer in it. But again, that goes against the grain, certainly in my community, because again, you can talk to any, especially if you're Gen X or older, that's all you hear about is those, oh yeah, I believe in whipping that butt. Ooh, that child wipe out. Ooh, I'm gonna tear that hide up. And that was just something that was just always kind of indoctrinated into us. But I said no. Um, structure, um, consistency, again, setting boundaries, different ways of punishment, taking things away, generally work for us. But I've never, raised my hand no, that's just something that we want to do. And I remember our guy Jay Speed, who's used to be a regular guest on the BMU show. Now he talked about how he used it for some of his kids, but for some of his younger ones, he stopped using it because it was, he just realized there's a healthier way of going about it. And
Mhm.
sometimes I think people go to it um because they're lazy, or like I said, because that's what was done to them. Therefore, that's what I must do to you. There's no like real thought behind it. And people want to say, oh, well, look at the prisons are full. The prisons are full of people who've had corporal punishment. I mean, you think all those guys in prison never got a beating. Some of those probably they got too many beatings, which probably force them to act out. So so I don't think there's a corollary between the more corporal punishment, the less likely to become a criminal or commit crimes or whatever. I think
I don't
certainly.
think it has like corporal punishment is going to prevent them from being criminal. If they're going to go down the wrong path, they're going down the wrong path no matter
Mhm,
what.
mhm. But I
So
think if it's a tool within a structure, like I said, there's got to be love, there's got to be nurturing, there's got to be reason. I think certainly guys I've known who've used it well, if you want to call it that. There's always the follow up. This is like after a while, you go and you talk to them. You say, "This is why I used it. This is why because I don't want you to go this path or whatever." There's hugs later, you know. So yeah, there's the discipline on one end, but then there's the hug that comes later. So again, I think that for those who want to use it, I think you have to have that boundary. Or for some, if you just want to instill fear into your kids, now that's I know some old schools like that. Oh, I don't care about. And again, I get it. Say, oh, I'm not your friend. I'm your parent. That is true.
but also
But
you can be
some
both.
people want to put the fear of God into their kids, and I don't know if that is useful. And I think the last show that we had, again, if you guys want to look that up, look up the Gray Area show on the Black Men Unfiltered Network on corporal punishment, where I go into this in depth and just cite some again. And some people you don't I it doesn't matter how many statistics I show, it doesn't matter how many studies that I show. You're like, no, I'm sorry, I'm whipping that behind.
Look
And
at Bossman. He
I
said
get
it
that.
on the show.
Oh yeah. He's whipping that booty and he didn't care.
No,
And I
he
get
said
it.
it. I don't give a shit.
That there are people who stand by that philosophy no matter what. But I think there's just other ways. There's just other methods. I said there is no handbook or guidebook to parenting. Like I said, I think that structure, having order, having being consistent. Your yeses should be yes, and your no's should be no's. Man, I think that matters. Age appropriate. I think the biggest thing when my kids were younger, like 10, 15 years ago, the biggest thing was waiting their turn, because the fact that they were 22 months apart, in some respects, they did everything together, right?
Mhm.
They did dance together. They went on trips together. They did a lot of things together, just keeping, we moved as a unit, but there were certain things that they had to qualify for. So like when smartphones came out, I think that we first got smartphones, I think in 2011, I think 2011, 2012. Um, they all had phones, but they were like the regular kind of flip phones, the non-smart phones. And I think we said something to the effect of, oh, well, when you turn, 14 or whatever it was, you can have a smartphone. And so when the first one got a smartphone, the other two were like, why can't we have a smartphone? Because you're not the age yet. And then the next one would get it. And then the youngest one always felt slighted because I never get anything. Why do they always get things before me? Because you're the youngest. And so it's like, look, this is a fair deal. When you get to a certain age or whatever, you can have certain privileges. And we weren't going to capitulate on that It wasn't like my wife was going to come back and says, "Oh, but Paul, you see how they're playing and stuff, and maybe we should just break down and get." No, we were in lockstep. When they get to a certain age, and even then, it wasn't even so much an age thing. It was really about the maturity aspect. It's age, and you got to show us that you are worthy of it, that you can get, these particular things, you know. And so I wasn't going to be I wasn't going to be like I said, inconsistent or change the rules based on emotion. I said I'm pretty consistent. I think that's one thing that if you would ask my daughters, I don't change a whole lot, you know, when it comes to certain rules and parameters and things. Like again, no alcohol in the house. That's it. And I know you're going out and you doing your party thing, whatever. When you come home, do your party in there. I don't want to see any wine or alcohol or beer in the house. That's just a rule. And
And that's a
so
respectful rule, to be honest with you, Paul. If you don't want it in a house, and that's you pay the rent, I mean, the more, excuse me,
mhm,
you put a roof over our heads. There's nothing wrong with that. I don't
yeah,
think there's anything wrong. I know a lot of parents who don't they drink, but they don't like having alcohol in the house
yeah,
because it causes too many problems. They say,
yeah,
and because
yeah.
they have kids, they don't want them sneaking into the liquor cabinet. So
Right, right. And I never wanted to have parties with, like I said, we've had parties with adults, and some adults didn't come because we said this is a dry party. There's no alcohol. You could
you
you
can have a
you
good
could
time without alcohol. That's bullshit. They doesn't want to come.
some people it's like, oh, there's no alcohol. So I ain't coming. So it's like, okay, then fine, don't come. But that's or
You're not going to sleep over it.
do your party until then, because I remember there was a law in New Jersey where I think if you allow someone to leave your house and they were drunk, that you would be responsible for them. Now they changed that law since then,
I
but
think
it
it was
was like,
cross borders. Every state had it at one point.
yeah, yeah, but I think they've since lessened that up. I mean, if the person's a grown adult, you're not necessarily responsible for them, but it used to be that case. So again, when people were having house parties and liquor and all that kind of stuff, they left, and you let them leave, and they were caught. That was on you if something happened. So you weren't immune from that. But that was another reason why. It's like I said, I've never needed alcohol to have a good time. That's not to say that do what you want to do. I mean, I'm not, even though I'm a teetotaler, I'm not saying no one should be drinking. I'm not saying that, but that's just something that's just never been something that I've needed to enjoy myself. If anything, I want to enjoy myself more by being clean and sober, so I can remember everything and be able to tell you the story of what we did that night 10 years later. But if you get up the next day and you don't remember what happened the last night, then was it really a good time then if you can't remember, what you did that night? So those are just things that um, I was mindful of. Um, One other area that I wanted to get into was when it comes to, again, you tell me, certainly as a Greek native or Greek American, what about academics, school? Like how much? Because I know some cultures, like a lot of the Asian cultures, big on school. It's like school is like you don't have a life if you're not getting A's straight across the board, then you're not, don't even think about asking me for anything else. It's school or being so high was so important that again, forget social life or whatever. Your only job in life as a kid is to get straight A's. What's that? Is that mindset prevalent in Greek culture? Is schooling so much of an issue there as it is like in Asian cultures that it just becomes like the dominant? Or so what's the mindset with Greeks when it comes to education? Pete, still there? I think you froze on me. All right, so I'm gonna wait for Pete. Pete, why don't you log off and come back in? But I'll just kind of give my perspective, and you kind of come back when you get back in the show. So he froze up a little bit. But one thing that I was big on, and again, I was a decent student. I was like a B plus student. I wasn't, yeah. Every once in a while, I make the honor roll, but I wasn't like consistently A++ across the board. And I remember one time when I was in high school, I was in class with this girl. She was sitting next to me. We're in algebra. It was either algebra or trigonometry. I can't remember. And she was balling next to me. Like, inconsolable next to me because she got a 90 on a test. Now, mind you, at that time, until I got, good, I got good at math after a while, but it took me a minute, especially with trig. It took me a minute to get good with it. But I was just getting 70s and 75s and whatnot. She got a 90 and she was balling. And I asked what was, and so when I found out that just stayed with me. And again, I've known parents who are so focused. And again, I get it. There's certain institutions of higher learning that have a high academic requirement. I get that. If you want to get into Yale, Ivy League, Harvard, the major tech schools or whatnot, yeah. I mean, having a high GPA as well as high test scores. Now, I understand that they're getting away from standardized test scores, from what I understand in certain areas, whether it be the SAT or the ACT tests. I get all that. But the one thing as a parent, I was never so obsessed with their grades. It was, to me, it was more so their effort.
Mm-hmm.
Like, my thing is, like, I never complain if my kids, if you did the best you could and you got a C+, I was good with that. As long as you were applying yourself. Now, generally speaking, my girls, they got the grades that they needed to get the results that they wanted to graduate high school and to graduate college. My last one, she graduated with honors. But it wasn't like, I was, so obsessed where, oh, you got to be on a test. You're grounded. I just never did. Like I said, my thing was give them the best environment for which to succeed. And a lot of the work ethic came from them. I remember one time I went up, it was very late. It was like 2 a.m. I get up to use the bathroom. I see my daughter's light still on her room, and I'm kind of like, what's she still doing up at this time? I go into her room, and she's got her books are like laid out all over her bed, and she's writing. Like she's grinding. One thing about my oldest daughter, she may not be the sharpest tack, but she works for every A. Like every grade that she gets, she works hard. And she was grinding. So I'm like, I didn't say, like, what am I going to say here? Oh, go to bed. It's like,
Yeah, at that point, it was better for you to keep your mouth shut
yeah,
because
I just said,
she's
what am I
doing
going
the
to
right
say at
thing.
this? I mean, she's doing what, yeah. Some kids, it's like, the kids that like everything comes easy to them, like they're bored. Oh, they just think and they get an A. You know what I mean? It's like, I'm like, ugh, like, you want to strangle them at certain times. But look, she's grinding, she's doing the work. And I generally believe that if you put the work in, more times than not, you'll get the outcome that you want. In fact, me and Coach were talking about that the other night. The one thing I said when it comes to coaching, the one thing I can't say, if I were a coach, like of a team, the one thing that I'm going to judge you on more than anything else is your effort. If I see you as a kid on my team and you're not working hard, that's the easiest way to get cut. And I don't care how old you are either. I mean, like if you don't want to be here, then go. I'll talk to the parents and say, look, your kid doesn't seem to have a lot of interest in here in this. We're trying to be about something positive here. Maybe your kids should go somewhere else. Now, coach disagrees with that a bit, especially for younger kids. My thing is again, you need to be present. Because I know I wasn't the best athlete back in the day at all, but I gave it everything I had. I didn't play organized sports until I was 14 years old. And I had no skills. I had no basketball skills. No one taught me. My brother, I mean, he was pretty good at basketball, but he didn't really, we didn't spend a lot of time together playing. So a lot of things came to me late. And, but that was just something that just stuck with me, So again, I will judge you based on your effort, not the outcome. Because more times than not, the outcome will come with the effort.
I
But for
agree with that
some,
too.
it's just the outcome.
Yeah.
You get a 90, that's unacceptable. You know, and so I've seen a lot of kids crash and burn, especially I remember my freshman year in college. Um, I was on probation the first year because it was like I said, it was almost like the wake up call. Like I was too distracted. Like I said, this is coming from a small town, Highland Park, and going to a big university like Rutgers, and it was just I'm like all over the place. It's like wow, like schooling wasn't necessarily the first thing in mind. It was a whole new world. It was like the real world when we talked about last night about MTV,
Mhm.
right? It was literally like the real world. Like I was living the real world with all those influences and distractions. So
Because it was a new word for you, a new experience, a new
yeah,
everything for you.
and you had a lot of kids who came up. They were like, they were like all honors coming out of high school, and they thought that college would be easy. It was like, oh, it's algebra. I took this in high school, and they didn't realize that it was amped up that much. So they didn't think they had to study, and a lot of those honor roll kids got on probation. And as a probationary student, there were certain classes that we had to take in terms of study habits and whatnot. Shout out to a guy now I still recognize to this day, Dr. Kamal Khan. He's still with the university now. My daughter knew him. That's the crazy thing. So, daughter in med school now. He runs a medical school program or an academic path for those going to medical school. But he was an academic advisor when I was there. So every time he sees me, and then he sees my daughter, and it's like, he's like, where's my student? Where's my doctor? I mean, he still reaches out to me that way. But so you had to do that. But a lot of kids were spazzing out because they could not go home with that standing that I got on probation or I underachieved or underperformed. And
See,
that
here's the 2
was
things to that.
yeah.
Here's 2 things. So I'm gonna take this in 2 different ways. So before my computer crashed, you were asking me how the Greeks felt about education. During school time, yes, education is very important. There are some kids that know, hey, I need to buckle down now because I need to be in a certain group. So a lot of them do take some what's the word I'm looking for? Some summer classes,
Mhm.
some tutoring, during the school. Some that's optional, obviously. And if the parents can afford it, because that's you pay that out of your pocket, it's not public.
Right.
So during the school year, they're locked down pretty much. Study, 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 study. Because the school system is very hard in Greece because they make it harder because teachers are lazy. Simple as that. I'll be honest with you.
Mm.
So now the second part with the kids going crazy and suspension. So when I worked at the universities, I always saw definitely the freshmen. They're the freedom, they're going out drinking, they're going partying. Then they realize, oh shit, my grades are getting fucked up. Like if you go to any of these bars down the street from my house on a Friday and Saturday night, I don't care if it's snowing, rain, or whatever, they're all packed with college kids.
Mhm.
I was literally having that conversation today with somebody. He's saying that's great they have somewhere to hang out and close to the university, but what about our adults who want us to hang out and have a beer too?
Mhm.
Because old college kids are going to those bars now.
Mhm.
So the point I'm trying to get to is the reason they get in education problems because they're losing control. Oh my god, it's freedom party. Woo! Like it's like they don't realize that's not healthy either.
Mhm.
I'm not saying don't go out and have fun during your college time. Yeah, definitely go out and have fun. But make sure your schoolwork is done first. Make sure
Mhm.
your grades are up.
Mhm.
If you're passing one of your classes, like let's say whatever is passing, I'm not sure anymore what it is now these days for college. But if you say you're passing with let's say you have a couple A's and C's, okay, that's passing, and you're good. Go have a drink, have fun. I'm not gonna
Mhm.
stop you. Go have fun.
But in like I said, in Greek, I'm talking about Greek culture specifically.
Mhm.
Like, is schooling so like
Driven.
emphasized, like pushed, like you have to, and also what about professions? Like I said, a lot of like in India, for example, I know this because I work with Indians for years.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
There's really only three professions that you can be in India, right? You could be an engineer, you could be a doctor, or dentist. That's it. Like,
So in most Greek parents, including my mother, they tell you two professions when I was growing up: be a lawyer or be a doctor.
mhm,
The thing they're always driven in your head, like you need to go to school. You don't want to be like your father or you like your parents who are struggling because
mhm,
trades back in the day didn't pay enough, if you
mhm,
remember.
mhm,
Now it's a whole different story. Trades pay more than a college degree.
mhm.
So they were big driven about go to college, go to college, go to college, go to college.
Right.
But in the same token, like some kids don't are not college materials. Let's be honest
Right.
here, Paul.
But it seems like, at least my perception, again, it's a crude perception from the outside. Like, I've never seen from Greek culture that push for education to that degree. I've seen guys who are like, business owners,
Hmm.
you know what I mean? Entrepreneurs, get your own that way. But I've never seen, or at least the Greeks that I've been at before I met you, that, you know, being a doctor was a thing or being a lawyer is a thing, or that's
In my
just an
case, I
expectation.
don't own a business, Paul. You have to remember that. My father didn't own a business.
Right.
None of my parents own my business. Nobody and like none of my family members own a business except for my uncle. And that's really a third cousin from my family. So I don't really if you want to really count that, it's a different story. But let's not
Right.
count that for me. My immediate family, none of us were business owners.
Right.
So people that I know are in business, you have to tell them like my sons are gonna take over the business one day.
Right. But if you
Sometimes
go
they do.
like when we were in your neighborhood, like when we went to New York and in the neighborhood there,
Mhm.
it's like I said, there's a lot of entrepreneurs. It's a little,
Kings Fuleki, a great example.
yeah.
Like he did great for himself. There are three partners in that.
Mhm,
Are there three partners their kids are gonna get into it? That is the question now. These days, and we don't know how
mhm.
to answer that question because we don't know.
Right. Right. But there doesn't seem to be I guess a cultural push, or are you saying that there is? I'm saying from a cultural level, not from your own individual experience, not from your immediate family. I'm saying within Greek society, is there a push to be like Braxton just said in Arabia, like in a lot of Arab countries, it's like you come here, you want to be an entrepreneur. If you're in from India, again, doctor, dentist, engineer, or computer something, program something in the IT space. There's just certain professions that are expected. If you try to be even a lawyer or what they call maybe a barrister in India, it's not going to be looked on as favorably as those other three professions. You know,
Mhm.
so I'm saying like as a culture, from your experience, has there been a push for in terms of a particular vocation or education that is being pushed towards? And are you saying if so, is that being the doctor or the lawyer?
I won't say it's either way because it really depends on your situation at the time. Because a lot of kids go to college. I know that for a fact. That's one thing they always go to college,
Mhm. Yeah, this is
even
what
their
this
own their
what
own business.
Braxton's saying here. Yeah, it's like in certain areas, it's like there's expectations. You're not going to go to college and study liberal arts. You're not going to study art history or English or some other discipline, some liberal arts education. Again, they're very specific about certain professions um, that they expect their kids to want to go into. So that's kind of more the perspective I was asking you.
I give you a great example. Somebody in my church, he owns a carpet cleaning business, right?
Hmm.
And he said to me, he's finally had his son. He's going to be working with him. He's been doing it for a while too, but they just worked for different companies because they always argue. But him
Hmm.
coming in gave him a different view to the business. The
Hmm.
things about the business he could update, the way he does statements, the
Right.
way he promote himself, and all
Right.
this the digital version of stuff.
Hmm.
He was still doing the old pen and paper, old school pad thing, and he realized that doesn't work anymore. Taking credit cards, he wasn't doing that. He was only taking checks or
Yeah.
cash.
Yeah.
And he realized his son coming into this picture gave him an update. And I know a lot of parents that their kids go to college so they can come back and actually help them grow the business into the day.
Mhm.
So that's the other take too. You could go to school and still do the same business as your parents.
Mhm.
So, and the opposite too. It really depends what the kid wants to do end of the day. Like, if you don't want to do the business, you should go to school at least.
Yeah.
Say.
Yeah, I
It's
mean,
one or the other.
having the I guess options. I'm saying there's just certain cultures where options are limited
They
based on
are
the
limited
expectations
somewhat
what
in
the
Greek
culture. Yeah,
too,
yeah,
because you don't have like there will be two options. If your parents own a business, you're going to do a business, or you're going to college. Those are the only two options you have.
mhm,
But the other like most parents, like I said, if you don't own a business, they want you to be a lawyer or a doctor. Now it's
mhm,
IT on top of that, of course.
yeah,
So, except that, that's only options. Like being a trade, they'll laugh
mhm,
at you. They'll laugh you out the room. Just, oh, you want to be a mechanic?
mhm,
Not my son. He's not
mhm,
gonna be a grease monkey because he's not gonna make money.
yeah,
In Greece, mechanics don't make money. Painters don't make money. The construction people are not making money because you don't need a degree in that. You don't
mhm,
need there's no trade school for that in Greece. Versus here, you can make money as a mechanic. You can make money being a chef. You can
yeah.
make money being a plumber or whatever. Trades make money
Well,
here.
just the volume. I mean, 350 million people versus I don't know how many people live in Greece, but it's supply and demand, right? I mean,
Yeah,
it's availability. I mean, like owning a car in Greece still mostly like a luxury, or is it pretty standard?
50-50 still, I'll say.
Mhm. Yeah,
Depends on your what collar you should fall in. If you're a blue collar or whatever, and your budget, because sometimes it's not even worth having a car. And if you're in Athens,
yeah,
public transportation is so easy to get nowadays. It's not even funny.
exactly. Yeah,
So
this is what
motorcycle
I
is
was.
more
Yeah,
common.
yeah. This is what I was talking about earlier. Some don't even allow their kids to bring home a B plus or B or a regular B on their report cards. Yeah, like I said, I've known people like that. But like I said, for
I'll give
me,
you a great example,
yeah,
bro. My neighbor in Greece, her one daughter became a doctor.
mhm,
She's one of the worst doctors I ever fucking seen personally,
mhm,
but she's a doctor still. She
mhm,
got, that's what she wanted to do. And
mhm,
from the day I ever met her, she was always grinding. That's all
mhm,
she did. Grind, 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 grind.
mhm,
And during summer, I saw her hanging out with her friends, stuff like that. Even through the summer, she studied through the whole summer too.
mhm,
Because going for your boards, being a doctor is not that easy. We both know this. And I don't
mhm.
care what country you're in. And I don't care if it's Greece, Athens, Greece, America, China, whatever. Getting your boards, being a doctor is not easy. But she made it something. She has her own practice. Again, I don't think she's a great doctor. That's my personal opinion. But but she grind.
Yeah,
She was accepted. She got straight A's.
yeah.
But being a straight A student doesn't make you a good doctor either. A good lawyer.
True. Yeah. I mean, you got to be in the grind. I mean, there's the academic and then there's the practical.
Yeah.
And I remember Teddy Atlas one time. He was talking about you're not you won't be a good doctor or lawyer unless you're in a situation that you have to get out of that's not in the book. You know what I'm saying? Like he
Mhm.
said, like if you got this kid on the operating table, a kid, and he's bleeding out, and you got to go in there and try to save this kid's life, but the how do you do it may not even be in the book. It's like until you can do that, then you're a doctor. Or let's say if you're a lawyer in the courtroom, and let's just say the judge throws out all your case, like you build a case in terms of how you want to run it, and you run into all these obstacles. It's like, oh, sorry, that's inadmissible in court. And so your whole defense was messed up because of that, and you still have to find a way out of it. His thing is like, look, unless you can overcome those things, you're not a lawyer. It's like, you have to be able to really overcome some resistance in order to be that thing. Otherwise, you have a degree, but the idea of practicing law has to be, of a certain level of standard or medicine, where you like literally something happens in the surgery that's unexpected. And it doesn't matter how many practice runs that you've done or whatever. It's like, can you be cool under pressure? Can you get over the situation? A lot of people say it's like until you get there, then you're not that particular thing. But I want to cover just one more subject, I guess, for the night. And again, we've kind of been all over the place. Again, this wasn't a format, this sort of free flowing conversation. So we talked about everything from nursing, like I said, the La Leche League of of USA and surrounding areas breastfeeding their kids up until 7 years old or older. You have parent beds, or having everybody sleep in the same bed, or homeschooling your children, which I know some people are doing, certainly in more conservative areas of the country. I think people are certainly taking that on because they don't like either what's being taught in the public school system or even in some of the private school systems. They just want, have control over their child's education. We talked about corporal punishment and discipline. We talked about rights and responsibilities at certain ages. Like I said, when my kids turned 16, is when I really insisted that they get jobs at that point. The one thing I wasn't going to do, and again, I think parents really need to be honest about this as well. No way I was going to have my kids. I'm spending all this money for travel sports. I mean, I know me and Coach talked about that on a series of shows on the Sparta Network. That you have a lot of kids who are involved in all these travel teams from age 8 to 18 and never had a job, never had any responsibilities except just playing a sport. And then once all that over, because your kid didn't even get into a D3 school for all that time and effort that you put in, but they don't have any necessarily work skills either. That's not to say they don't have a work ethic from the sports that they played or they engaged in, but have you really sold your kids short because you didn't really start giving them responsibilities that, hey, in addition to, and you have to get good grades in school, and you have to work, and you have to do this, but it's like you're on travel team all year and you didn't have your kids necessarily prepared for life. You created an artificial life for them where they were safe in sports, in the sports world. That's going to come to an end. And then what do you do after that? And so that's something that I've also been very mindful of. But certainly to end the show, or at least the last topic, I just want to run by you. One thing I said back in BMU space, might have been like in a barbershop some time back, was especially when it comes to boys. Again, I don't have sons, but the one thing I'm pretty adamant about is like, are we raising our successors? And that's something that that I've really given some thought to. That um, there's some who have this idea that I'll always be your parent no matter what, or I'm always going to be the authority no matter what. And it's almost like you'll always be under me to an extent. And I just think that um, that mindset in parenting, I think if the next generation is going to do better than us, I think it has to change. Are we raising our children to be the bosses? Are we raising our children to be the leaders? Like, I love when you said, when you talked to your father and said, hey, this isn't working out where you're at. I'm moving you out of this nursing home and I'm taking you somewhere else. Why? Because I'm paying the bills. I think we need more of that. I think we need, the idea of, if you want your children to be better than you, or certainly if you want, and we didn't even talk about the idea of the expectation. Do you expect your kids to take care of you in your old age? If so, then you better train them up in order to do that. If they're constantly dependent on you, I know guys 40, 50 years old and he's still at the parents' house, and they're not the dominant breadwinners in the home. And so my thing is, how are you going to be in any position to really take care of them, because you never had to take care of yourself and you've never been given the responsibilities? And will the parents give you the responsibility to take care of them? And so for me, that's a big thing when it comes to parenting, regardless of your country or culture, wherever you're from. Are we raising the next tribal chief? And that may be a woman at the end of the day, depending on your family makeup.
That's one thing my father never did. He never, I'll call it training. He never trained me to take over the family. He never trained me to replace him one day as the leader. He never trained me to take the head of the table. Never.
Mhm.
I had to learn that the hard way. So I think I talked about this story once. So my life came upside down years ago when my mother was admitted in the hospital and my dad was ran over the car the same day. My dad got okay. It was 2 days apart. I lied. So my dad got run over by a car in New York City. He was
Oh
crossing the
gosh.
street, blew the fucking stop sign, flipped him over 3 times. He was in the hospital, and ever since then, he's never been the same. A day or two later, mom got admitted for what she got admitted this time. I think it was her stomach again before her cancer came. So who do I pick to go to now? So I had to play Jogo game. So when I realized my dad's not going to be working for a while, okay, I can handle the bills. No big deal. I'm not worried about that. But that's easy.
Mm.
Later on, as I realized, oh, he's not going to be working ever again. He's done now. He's already past his expiration date, but really, he's not working. So all of a sudden, I was in a situation like, I'm the man. I got to do this. I got to do that. Like the first 2-3 years, cause stress is an understatement. I was literally, this is why I have all these gray hairs, Paul.
Mm-hmm.
This is why
I have none.
Yeah. I always had gray hairs when I was younger, but most of my gray hairs came in when I took the leadership of the Laricious family, when I took over everything.
Yeah.
It was a lot to take in. But I put my shit together and I did it. But not everybody's me. Not everybody's you. Some people will crash and burn.
Mm-hmm.
Some people will have a freaking panic attack. Some people have a mental breakdown.
Mm-hmm.
But if you're going to learn anything from this show today, is have these conversations with your father or your mother when you are going to take over the leadership or the womanhood, whatever fence you fall on. Because if you're not mentally prepared or trained, you're going to crash and burn. Because I'm talking from experience. The worst experience ever, sometimes. Mm-hmm. But they say you only get better with experience, right?
Or wisdom, one or the other. But most people learn from experience. Wisdom is precious when it's applied, but until sometimes you got to go through things on your own. Like I said, I didn't have that kind of training either. I was kind of thrust in back in 2016, 2017. Was like I realized both my parents, I need to step up and take care of them. Because, again, certain people weren't available due to distance. Some people weren't available due to capacity. Mental, some people weren't built for this. And I didn't think, to an extent, I was built for it until I was kind of thrown into the hopper. And,
I'll give you an example. I'm not going to use his name, but I know somebody who is not built to be a man. He's built to be a boy. Mm-hmm. He wants to do his own thing. But by man, I mean like going out dating, find a wife, marry, kids. He's not built for that. Mm-hmm. He keeps saying he wants that, but I know mentally and everything he has, he's not going to ever be there. Mm-hmm. He cares about other things more. So he's never going to be the man of the house. As much as he wants to be, he's not, because what he wants is impossible to find out there. He wants no flaws. He wants somebody says yes or no. You know for a fact that's not true out there. Mm-hmm. Like if you, here a good example. If your wife says she needs a new bag and costs whatever it costs, you're going to say no to her?
Probably. It depends on the situation. I mean, if it's not in the budget, if it's not in the means, then no, not for now.
Yeah, that's a different sort of budget. But I'm saying, you guys, let's say you have the money, extra income, and pretty much yes.
If I can get it for sure. I mean, I love my wife. I want to,
exactly. So here's the argument I got with him. Okay, a purse is not an investment, but a gun is. I looked at him. I called him an idiot for that.
So he wants to get her a gun instead of a purse.
No, his guns. She's not allowed to touch his guns. Mm-hmm. But she's not allowed to get a purse. You see with this?
Yeah, I mean, there may be, some control.
Yeah, but I'm using it as an example. But
yeah,
him being a father, No,
Mhm.
he won't be able to handle that. He wouldn't be able to
Right.
handle the leadership of the family at all.
Yeah.
His brother's a whole different story. His brother's a good father. I met his kids. I see how he's raised them. I see how he's parenthood. He's a good father. He doesn't use corporal punishment, but he threatens them. He's going to one of these days.
Mhm.
Like he grabbed him, like okay, you're gonna talk back. He goes, no, okay. He's never slapped him. He told me
Mhm.
that. He never raised a hand on him, but he pretends he's going to
Mhm.
get his point across.
Right.
And that's pretty good parenting. If you don't ever have to, like you
Well, as
said,
long
like
as it works. If they start to figure it out. Like I
it's been
said,
working so
my
far.
thing is, yeah. Like I said, I would never make a never make a threat that I didn't follow through on. I mean, I think that's part of it. Like I said, that's what I said about earlier, being consistent.
Mhm.
And if you can't do that, then that's a different you once the kids figure that out, then they'll try to walk over that. So you have to be mindful of that. But yeah, I mean, you have to but just the idea of, again, are you raising a better version of yourself at the end of the day?
Oh, that's
And
not a
again, to
good point.
really take over. Like I kind of said it, and guys kind of lost it when I said it I think it was in the barbershop show. I think you should be raising, if you have a son, you should be raising your son to kick your butt. So again, if you're a martial artist, Pete, you're
I'm one step ahead of you. Master Ray with Shin. He trained his son to take over the school eventually and take over the style. So, what he never got to the point he had to fight his own father for real.
Mhm.
But I think in reality, if he had to do that, I think Shin will kick his Ray's butt any day of the week because he's obviously younger and faster.
Yeah. I
So you
said, I
got
mean, I
that there.
think, but I think nature mandates that, right?
Yeah.
I mean, you see this in biology. I mean, why do people get, for the people who get it, why do you get a flu shot every year? Or a COVID booster shot, if you're into that. I'm not getting political here. I'm just saying, whatever vaccination protocol that you follow, why do you do it? Is oftentimes because the person or the bacteria, it develops an immunity to the one that was last year. The strain adapts to the new one, so it gets stronger. And so, just like in nature, I think you need to get stronger. And unfortunately, I see it, especially for a lot of boys, a lot of young men that I'm seeing, they're not stronger than their fathers, in part because their fathers didn't want them to be. And that's a lot of brothers don't want to hear that. But the reality is, you always thought of yourself that I will never let my kid get the best of me. When the total attitude, in my view, should be you should want your kid to be better than you intellectually, physically, emotionally, all those attributes. They should be better than you in a lot of those ways. They don't necessarily, they may not have the experiences that you grew up with, but that's at least the mindset. If I'm going to have, like I said, I want a successor. Why is it that a lot of these millionaires and billionaires, a lot of their kids don't run the business as good as they did? Because
Point.
they didn't have to grind. They didn't have to, they didn't know the struggle of it. But as best as you can.
The thing
You
I do like a few people, and I don't know them personally, for their sons or daughters to take over the business, what they did is they had to work from the ground up. If he was scrubbing floors, he's going to be scrubbing floors. And when he's ready, he'll get promoted and promoted to the point he becomes CEO eventually one day because he
Mhm,
knows the struggle then.
mhm.
There's one quote, I don't remember what movie it is, but it's from Daniel Washington. He said to his son asked him, "Why don't you like me?" I don't
Yeah,
remember
I
what
don't
movie it is.
and I hated that movie. Yeah, it's called Fences, and I hated that movie for that very reason.
Okay, you know what I'm
He
talking about.
basically raised a weaker version of himself.
Yeah.
I mean, there was no nurturing in order for the guy himself. He was an ex-athlete. He basically hated his life because, again, I guess he was like a baseball player or something, and something happened where he didn't get a chance to play baseball, and he hated his life. He didn't appreciate his wife, and he almost resented his son. And so, to me, that's exactly what I'm talking about. That kind of mindset where, again, your idea is you didn't want a better version of yourself because of your insecurities.
See, Paul, I'll be honest with you. If I had a son right now, I want him to do better than me. I want to outpass me. Like, if he becomes a chef, and that's great. Don't expect him to be a chef. But let's say he becomes a better chef than me. Maybe he becomes like a Ramsay's level, like a up there, like a global chef. Great. You blew every expectation out the water. I don't want him being to my level. I want him to be above me. I don't want him talking down to me either, but I want him to be above my level.
Right. Well, even because, again, he may not go to, like I said, where you may not take on your vocation, but again, just the ability to have the responsibility to, again, make family decisions. Can you be like, if you want to use a movie reference, like The Godfather, right? I mean, Michael Corleone, took over. And are we, I'm just asking this question rhetorically, and you're right, Arpane, I don't have sons, as I said earlier. I do only have daughters. But you see just as much as I do with a lot of these kids, a lot of these boys, and where they're at. And yes, some of them being raised in single parent households by their moms, at least in the Black community. I get that. But even when kids are raised by their sons, I'm still not seeing a certain level of whether it be masculinity or just drive. Guys I know now, they're kids. When I meet them, they're passive. You go to shake their hand, they don't look at you. Even with their fathers around. And I'm just saying, like, there's something there that is, like something's missing. Now you put a baseball in their hands or a basketball or something and go out there and play. But in terms of life skills, social skills, different ways of moving, there's something missing. But I'm just saying that, there's something, I think, in certainly in the African American community, where boys or young men are being neglected in certain ways, or we're not, because as men we wanted them to do what we couldn't do. Like, there was no travel team back in the day for Gen X's and Boomers, but we wanted them to have it because we never had it. But is that our primary responsibility as men to give them those things, or is it our responsibility to train our successors to take over the family and stuff? When I get to a point where I can't make decisions for myself, I want my daughters to be equipped in such a way to say, hey, this is what's going to happen, Dad. And to me, that's what I'm seeing, that we have to have that kind of conversation. And we can't be afraid of that. My man hopped up last minute because he's got admin rights. So he you muted, sir.
I think you have a hold name. Why not?
Gentlemen, what's going on?
Muted.
Oh, yeah. Let me unmute myself. I'm muted?
No, I can hear him. Sir. I can hear him.
Okay. Can you hear me now?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Can't hear you.
I can hear you.
So I can and it seems like it says here you're unmuted. I'm looking at your screen. You okay.
Can you hear me now?
Still muted.
Oh, I can hear him. Can you guys hear me?
Hold on, let me get out of here and come back. Because I know I'm on.
Now, Pete, you're muted now. You're just playing.
Say what?
No, Paul, can you hear us?
Hang on, something happened. Hang on a second, guys.
What the fuck is going on here?
Pete, can you hear Arpane?
Yes.
Okay, so it's me.
Yes.
All right. Let me go out and I'll come back in. But you can say in the last few minutes of the show, you can say what you want to say. I'll try to come back in.
No, I want to talk to you. So when you come back. Listen, I wanted to ask, how does he I wrote you guys a challenge in my English here. I just wanted to see how his theory about having sons be better than the father, how does that translate to the daughters?
Because, that is a good question.
Yeah, that's what I want to know. How does he view that? I mean, because the sons could get more powerful, stronger, better, more skilled. But what's the corollary for girls? Because I don't disagree that they should have maybe a more aptitude, more something that's better than the father. Can you hear me now, Mr. Bennett?
Yes, I can. Can you guys hear me?
Yeah,
Yeah.
one I wanted to the question I had for you wasn't that I had anything with your theory about your sons. I was saying, what's the corollary if you only have girls? Because you want them to be better too going forward. You know what I'm saying? What would that look like?
I guess it's a little different for me because I still believe I'm sort of a leave and cleave sort of guy. Like they're gonna grow and hopefully they get married and they're gonna have families and they're gonna cleave with that.
Right.
So would I still want them if something happened to me, if they were to come and take over? Yeah. And I think there's still an aspect of the way we raised our girls, like I said, having jobs, having responsibilities that I think goes with that. And the one who's in medical school now, she kind of has that mindset already. It's like, you can almost kind of see that she's going to be the one. The other two, they're still fleshing it out. They still got to get some maturing that they still got to do to get there. But I think the fact that she went away to school and kind of saw, just lived a different life, I think her perspective changed a bit. And she realized what it took to raise us. And so therefore, okay, now I need to. And she also saw how I took care of they all saw how I took care of my parents in their old age.
Right.
And so they got that experience also. It's like, yeah, these are the things that you do. So again, I'm hoping, what had happened, or certainly if, my wife and I in position, we won't necessarily need that, but I think we're all going to need it. I mean, we're all going to lose faculties at some point, and there's certain decisions that have to be made. And, hopefully I can, again, school them on the sort of decisions that need to be made. I'm telling them now. It's like, look, if you need to put me in a nursing home, I ain't fighting you on it. I mean, like I said, you do what is required in the circumstance situation. I myself, I pray to myself, like, I don't want to be that parent who's going to be fighting. Like Pete, like knows his dad is not in a good place. He knows he needs to be in a better place, but his dad is fighting him. And I just pray I never be that guy. I want to make it easy for them in order to make decisions on my behalf. So yeah, they can sign. I can give them power of attorney. I'll give them whatever they need to make decisions. Because again, one thing I am sure about it, that I've raised them as such that they wouldn't, that they
wouldn't shy away from that. They wouldn't shy away from that responsibility.
Yeah.
Because I talked to my daughters about that. I say what?
I'm sorry. Quick question: if something did happen to you, which of three daughters will be mostly responsible for you?
Probably my oldest.
Oldest. Okay.
Because again, and also mind you, she's entering in just the profession that she's going into, right? I mean, it's sort of like a caregiving type of mind. You have to have a mindset for that. And I think she's out there, like the other two, they're still, fleshing out. They're still kind of like they're recently graduated to get into their careers and stuff, and they're still kind of fleshing some things out. But even my youngest is showing signs of like she understands certain things. She's becoming more in the last year. She's becoming more self-aware of the realities of things and things that need to be done. And so, so again, I hope to use this time in this season where again I can have more occasions to talk about and communicate and possibly formulate what is going to be that life's in plan for her and my wife.
Right.
And so
if something happened to you,
when my daughters they're geared up to, like, for me, I don't think of myself that much in terms of, they're geared up. Like I tell them, we have these conversations. I said, if anything happens to me, I tell them to take care of their mother. Because they're both grown now. They're probably going to inherit not probably, they're in the will to inherit all the stuff we have. But, my wife hasn't, she's been with me for 38 years. She's going to have she's going to need some covering. Right. And I know they would do it because they're real close, but I just kind of mention it. Make sure you take care of her. Make sure you don't give all our money to the church or some crazy shit like that. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But make sure she takes care of herself. So those kind of things. So they're ready. They're both professional. I guess if anything they got from me is that they work all the time.
Yeah.
They just like I worked all the time, and now I look back on that and I say maybe I could have done a few less hours, and been home.
Yeah. And then there's that balance that you want. Because again, it's weird now. I think more about family or my children having families more so though than their vocations. It's like when they were on the come up, they were like, hey, you get your education and whatnot and get into your bag. Okay, that's almost like automatic now. Like that's kind of done. Now I'm like, what about this other aspect of your life? And it really came to head like when my wife, she had a birthday back in November, and we threw a big surprise party. Like she totally took her by surprise.
Right.
And I was like, I want my kids to experience this. Right. You know what I'm saying? Like when they're kids, when they get that age or whatever, and they can be on, you can celebrate your parents like that. I think that's something that every person should be able to experience at some point. Family is to me is everything. It's any institution, any organization, any country or nation structure. It's got to be based on the family. Without that, churches die, family reunions die. I mean, you've seen it, Arpain.
The
numbers back generations ago be 200-300 people at family reunion. Like you would fill the whole church up. Now getting 40-50 together is a struggle now. You know what I mean? Because again, people, my nephew, he goes up to you ever been to Martha's Vineyard?
No, I haven't.
It's pretty wild.
I know it's nice.
But they talk about, like, especially you go to Oak Bluffs, right? That's like an historic place for African Americans to go, and especially in the summertime.
Right.
And he showed me this documentary, and they were talking about all these families that have been there for generations. And back in the day, the guys talking about, I was here, all my cousins, 40 cousins here. And I'm just thinking, but wait a minute. That's not going to be a reality in the next 20, 30 years if we don't get our act together. Because if we're not going to be marrying and having families and that has to be continued. And if we don't do that, then that great history, as great as it is, I mean, you're talking about people going back over 100 years.
It's going to go away. Yeah, no.
It's going to go away.
It's going to go away.
So that's really, I guess where my heart is these days, that I want, certainly my daughters to find a lot. I told my daughter now, it's like, because we went down there back in September, it's like, you better find your husband here. I saw so many brothers down there. I mean, with them doctor's jackets on and stuff, it's like, yo, this is like photograph. If you can't find one here, I don't know. But that sense of, at life, like I said, there's a lot of things you can do in life. I mean, especially here in this country, you have so many choices, so many options of what you can do. And I'm not trying to inhibit you from doing a lot of those things. I'm saying that, again, at foundation, don't think family is optional. And that's going to involve, again, parenting, raising kids. And again, there's no rule book to that. Both of us know we've had daughters and they turn out how they turn out. Like I said, we can put guardrails up, but they're gonna be their own persons,
Absolutely.
But I would never trade, I think, my greatest achievement, I think, in life. Like I said, is one, being a husband and then being a father.
Yeah, I agree with
that. To me, that's kind of where it is. That's where it is. But anything else you want to say, Arpain?
No, I heard you getting ready to get out of here. I just want to pop up to make sure I got that question.
You're welcome anytime. We really appreciate it.
I appreciate it, man. I pop in, man. Stay silent in there. Listen to you guys once in a while, man.
We appreciate it.
Some days, if I'm over here watching football and all that kind of stuff, like I'm sure you probably had the game on in the background somewhere.
I was kind of glancing, but yeah, that was the only right. That was the only that game was alright.
Yeah,
but it oh geez,
somebody else just popped.
Someone else just popped up, so we got to put the user in timeout.
Popped up.
Yeah, she's going. But
all right, man. Let me get out of here though. Let y'all go, man. I appreciate it, man.
Appreciate you, man. And guys, make sure you follow Arpain on the Black Man Unfiltered Network, 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on the BMU Network.
Tomorrow's show, right, is male loneliness is a myth. Male loneliness is a myth.
What time the show starts?
It's 7 o'clock.
I'm always going back and forth
because you got
King's got his show going on, and Arpain's also. I'm going like back and forth between.
King got one on 7 o'clock on Monday.
He got 7 o'clock also. So I'm like, I'm walking a dog and I'm going back and forth between you two. So
it's very simple. Fix that.
Yeah.
You get a 49. Listen. You get a 49-inch monitor on your computer, like I have. and he can split the show in 2 screens. There you go.
Like I said, I'm walking the dog. Like I said, 7:00, I'm out with the dog, and I'm listening to both shows. By the time I get in, King only goes like an hour straight, or 45 minutes straight. So he's out, and then Payne he'll go on for a little go on for a little longer. But
like 2 hours at most. All right, gentlemen.
A little bit of both, but definitely check out both and whatnot, and certainly my man's consistent. He's doing his thing, and he's building up a following, especially your cooking shorts, man. Again, I'm just saying.
Yeah, all right, man. I try, man. I'll see you guys later, man. Happy Sunday, man.
You too, brother. And certainly we want to appreciate you guys for being on tonight with us. And again, whether you agree with some of the opinions and views tonight, again, this is a conversation that Peter and I have every week. And next week, we're going to have our call-in show next week. So anything that we've talked about in previous conversations and talks, if you want to bring that up next week, you can certainly call in. And if not, if you just want to hang out and just chat it up with us, we'll be available here next week. The call-in show on the Gray Area next Sunday. But outside of that, Pete, any final thoughts before we wrap up tonight?
Yeah, because everybody likes to talk shit right now, but when it comes to call-in show, no one wants to show the fuck up. So I'm putting a challenge to anybody who has the balls, the cojones, to actually show up next week and put us in our place for once. But I doubt anybody going to do it because no one has the guts.
Yeah, we love that. We'd love to have the certainly the panels on. And I said, Mandrell, I'm calling you out specifically because you always talk about where's the drop the link. It's like, all right, so we're gonna drop the link next week. Hopefully you show up and be part of the conversation, whatever you want to talk about. You also have an open invitation anytime you want to be on the show. And King, certainly if you're not doing anything next week, next Sunday, you certainly have that open invite as well to be on the show. But we appreciate you guys spending your Sundays with us. Certainly for the you guys certainly enjoy your week. Be safe. From myself, Mr. Bennett, and he is.
This is Sparta!
And this is the Gray Area on the Black Men Unfiltered Network, simulcasting on the Sparta HQ Network. Make sure before you leave tonight, hit the like button. Consider becoming a subscriber to both channels. Again, Sparta HQ Network, totally different listing of shows, certainly during the week. And but again, every Sunday you'll see us here on the Gray Area. So for myself and Sparta, this is the Gray Area. Take care. God bless. We'll see you next week. And we got to do a hard stop because I don't see the outro. So I'm just going to end it here. So you guys, good night.